Happy weekend morning to one and all. This is Doug Ray and Brice Payne with the Wealth Guardians Radio Show. Thanks for tuning in. Brice, of course, is right here alongside me. Brice, how's the week been for you, this cold, rainy week?
Wet. It's been wet, and I'm glad that the weekend is finally here. But more importantly, Doug, we had a little rerun last week because you were down in Florida.
Was down in Florida. We celebrated our 40th anniversary. It was supposed to be in Ireland, but so that got scrubbed because of the virus.
Sure. Happy anniversary. And what did you guys do?
So first off, we went down to Amelia Island near Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. Our son just took recently, a couple months ago, position with Anheuser-Busch in Jacksonville. So we got to see him for Mother's Day, and then from there we went down to Orlando. And played some golf. Actually went out and ate a couple times in a restaurant.
Did you actually play golf?
I actually played some golf.
Did you? How'd you swing?
Terrible.
Oh, okay. You excited for the match coming up? Tiger and Peyton and Brady and Mickelson?
Being gone for 10 days, I didn't even know that was happening. That's going to be pretty cool, I think.
I'm pulling for Peyton. Yeah. I don't know who he's paired up with, but I'm pulling for Peyton. All right. Very good. Well, what do we got on store for us today, Doug?
Well, we're going to talk about the coronavirus a little bit. We're going to talk about the economy, the markets. Lots been going on, lots of volatility there. I think in the second segment, we're going to talk about, people every now and then they ask me, they say, well, how am I doing compared to the rest of the folks you see?
Sure, and get that all the time.
So we've got some statistics about that. So we'll share that with you folks.
Let's give a shout out.
Yeah, let's shout out. Thanks a lot to all of our veterans, our service members, our first responders, and all their family. Thank you for everything you do for us, and we really, really appreciate you.
Everybody else on the front lines as well, who you just as soon not be putting yourself in harm's way, thank you for stepping out there and doing what you do. And I guess, Doug, based on our conversation before the show started, that would include barbers.
Yeah, right.
All right, well, let's get started with today's show now that it's not raining.
Speaking of barbers.
All right.
I've had my wife cut my hair now for probably a good 3 or 4 years, and she does a great job. I just refuse to pay $20 to have this bald head cut.
Yeah.
But my poor wife has gone 2 months without a haircut. She's just going crazy.
Is she really?
Yeah. So she's glad to hear that the salons are starting to open up. And thank you, Governor Cooper, for doing that for her.
For her,
yeah,
specifically. And anybody else out there who might be in need of that haircut. There you go.
So let's get started about a little update. I mean, lots happened. I've been gone for 10 days. Market's been volatile this week. We saw, 900 points up one day because a company comes out and says they think they've got a potential cure. Yeah,
let's stop there just for a second. All they said was that our initial testing stage, our very first one out of what I think is 8 stages, we've now moved ahead. And I'm not an expert on this, but I think stage 1 just means basically we didn't kill anybody. So now we can move on to stage 2.
Yeah.
And in the market hyperventilated over just this tiny, tiny bit of news. It makes me weep. It makes me laugh, Doug.
A lot has made me weep and laugh during the last couple months. And, the next day in the last hour of trading, it gave up half of that gain.
Yeah.
And then, it's just been up and down and crazy. We find out this week that the president for 2 weeks has been taking hydroxychloroquine as a preventative. And then the media goes nuts over that.
Yeah.
When we find out that the service members in the VA administer 42,000 doses a day of hydroxychloroquine.
Mm-hmm.
So much ado about nothing. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, Brice. I mean, we talked about this. We had a webinar a few weeks ago about the recovery process.
We did.
You still thinking maybe it's going to be more of a U versus a V?
It's not going to be a V. It's not going to be a V.
I can't see it either.
No. I mean, I know Trump is a natural-born marketer, President Trump, and that's who he is to the core, is always looking on the bright side and always selling the best positive story that he can. But the numbers, I just don't see any numbers bearing that out. This is going to take a longer recovery than a V shape.
Well, let me just give you a personal experience.
Okay.
So we went to Florida. We've been Marriott folks for lots of years. We stayed in Amelia Island at the Ritz. They had that open, but It was probably 50% capacity. Then we went to a timeshare in Orlando, and on this property they have not only the timeshare, but they got the huge JW Marriott and another huge Ritz-Carlton. Well, the JW and the Ritz were completely closed.
Really?
The timeshare unit we were in, there was only us and 2 other families in the whole thing.
Really?
Now, think about this.
Holy cow.
Think about this. What is it going to take to open these properties up?
Yep.
You can't snap your finger and get a big JW open overnight. It's not going to happen.
Right. Exactly
and how many other of those are out there?
Exactly right. And all the people that would need to fill them, they're going to be catching back up on trying to get their credit cards paid off and whatnot. If they're a household that's been down to 1 income or 0 incomes for the last 2 months, they've got other priorities than going back to a timeshare or vacationing at the beach for a while.
So, yeah, I'm with you, man. I just don't see a V shape. I mean, the market has recovered maybe about half of its loss. It's still struggling right here at the 24,000 level, which is about the 50-day moving average, and that's about where you would expect it to be struggling. But no, and I was watching Larry Kudlow the other day on Maria's show, and he's even saying, second quarter is going to be awful. Third quarter we're going to start to see some traction. And he said by the fourth quarter, we really ought to be humming along again. And I think he's probably pretty close to right. Certainly by the first of next year, I think things can be back to normal. Well, Brice and I really are passionate about helping people in the Triad become well prepared for retirement. So as we do each week on this radio program, we want to invite you to call us or go online to secure a complimentary financial review with our team. And I want to challenge you to take action and do it right now. Not because I'm trying to be pushy, but it's kind of my first step in coaching you to a better financial place. I know from years and years of experience that those who procrastinate make the most mistakes and they regret not taking action any sooner. So take that first step. Get a full-blown financial plan, one that's going to get you to and through retirement by calling 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409. Or simply just go online to thewealthguardians.com, click the blue button to schedule your second opinion meeting right now.
And, during our review, we're going to help you figure out a couple things. We're going to help you figure out all of the elements of your financial plan. I'll give you an example. We're going to help you pick the right Social Security election strategy. There's a number of different ways to do that. We'll make sure your plan is built to weather rising inflation and taxes. And we'll make sure you have the right income plan in place so that you're actually maintaining your lifestyle throughout your retirement years. And that's just really scratching the surface of our process. Our process, it's comprehensive, but it's not difficult. The hardest part is right now getting off the porch, picking up the phone, and giving us a call for your complimentary financial review. And as always, we look forward to sitting down with anybody who comes into our office, and we look forward to sitting down with you. And as Doug said, all you got to do is pick up the phone, 336-391-3409. It's 336-391-3409. Or you can also get your free second opinion review online at The Wealth Guardians. Just click the blue button. Okay.
Well, I think it's important, especially now, for everybody to do a second opinion assessment. And, we've been through a lot this year. No question about it. Isn't it about time for a trivia question?
We've got a trivia question here for you. And I do want to mention as well, because I don't think we just said it right there, Doug, that if you are still holed up in your house and you do want to have one of these financial reviews and you're itching to get out, you actually don't have to come here in the office. We can do this virtually online via a number of different ways. And so that's another way that you can do this if you're just sitting at home and you're thinking, I'd love to get out there and do it. You don't have to wait, actually, believe it or not. Okay, so our trivia question, Doug, we are almost in the month of June, the 6th month of the year. Do you know what happens starting June 1st, don't you? You know what time period starts on June 1st?
I do, and I know it just happened.
Well, kind of. Yeah, it did kind of just happen.
First name storm.
First name storm. So starting June 1st is the start of hurricane season. We had a little turbulence off of Florida here. While you were down there, did you get any of that weather?
Got a little bit of wind. Got some, I'd say it was just spotty rain.
Is that what we're experiencing some weather this last week? It was some pretty high winds around the middle of the week. Was that from that?
Well, the Outer Banks got a big dose of the tropical storm, but what we saw this week was just another disturbance coming out from the west.
Oh, okay.
That was from cold, the west. Actually.
Okay. Yeah, it has been cold. Yeah, I was wearing a sweater at one point. Okay, so June 1st starts hurricane season, and our question is to you out there. What was the earliest formed tropical hurricane, not just tropical storm, tropical hurricane in our recorded history off the U.S. Atlantic coast? That's it. A simple question. When was it?
Well, I don't know.
Nobody, I'm sure somebody out there knows, but I certainly didn't know before I looked this up. I just asked myself what would be a good trivia question to ask, and since we're going into that time period, that's what I'm asking. And so we will get that answer back to you after the break. Folks, stick around. We're going to come back with some more great information for our second segment, so stick around. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Wealth Guardians Show. Don't forget to check us out online at thewealthguardians.com. And you can also subscribe to our podcast version of the show and never miss an episode. Just search for Wealth Guardians Radio on your favorite app and listen today. Thanks for listening to the Wealth Guardians Show. Remember, if you need any help with crafting your financial and retirement plan, to reach out to the great team at Wealth Guardians by calling 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409. Or go online to thewealthguardians.com.
Okay, and welcome back to the Wealth Guardians Radio Show. I'm Brice Payne here with the man of all men, Doug Ray, and we left you before the break. Thank you for sticking around, by the way, with a trivia question. And I know that's why you did stick around, that and all the additional information we're going to give you on retirement planning here. And our trivia question was, now that hurricane season has started, and Doug, you don't know the answer to this, now that hurricane season is almost upon us, and we did have the first named storm that wasn't a hurricane off the Florida coast there, and coming up and battering our shores a little bit, what is the earliest recorded hurricane in the Atlantic?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question, but I can tell you this. My dad still talks about Hazel, and that happened before I was born.
Hazel. Well, that sounds like it would be something that happened before you were born. That is my mother-in-law's name. Hi, Hazel, if you're out there.
It was my grandmother's name, too.
Oh, how about that? Yeah. All right. So the answer to our question actually is May 17th, 1951 was Hurricane Abel, was the first Category 1 hurricane, the earliest Category 1 hurricane on record, brought 70-mile-per-hour winds off of our very own Cape Hatteras. There were no casualties, but that was a good 2 weeks before hurricane season started. Now, hurricane season always starts on June 1st, but they have changed the ending date between October 31st and November 31st at times. So right now it goes to November 30th. So it's June 1st to November 30th is our hurricane season now.
May 17th is interesting because, in the first segment we talked about our 40th anniversary. We got married on May 17th.
But not 1951.
No, 1980. But you know what happened the day after?
A hurricane?
No. Mount St. Helena's blew up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I do remember that. I was in Nebraska when that happened. That was right after you got married. Isn't that interesting timing there? Well, there's only been, Doug, 4 hurricanes recorded in the month of May. So this was one of them. This was the earliest one, May 17th. But I will throw this little side note in here. Is an interesting side note. The earliest named cyclone, which means any tropical storm as well. Actually, you want to take a guess on that date?
No.
January 3rd.
Oh my gosh.
1938.
Well, those are Pacific storms.
No, that was still in Atlantic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I guess technically the definition of a cyclone is anything that is a a tropical storm. I don't know if it counts as a depression or not, but a tropical storm or a hurricane is technically a cyclone. I can't get into much more detail than all of that. But anyway, folks, there is your answer. Hurricane Abel, May 17th, 1951, is the earliest hurricane to have come to the Atlantic. So we're now going to go into our second segment. Thank you for sticking around for all that. And what we're going to talk about here the second time around, Doug, is have you saved more than others your age? And I know this can be a common question. In fact, recent data from Fidelity has revealed the amount of the typical retirement savings of Americans by age group. So we're going to go over some of those numbers. I find them fascinating. But we want to see how those different brackets are shaping up and see where you as a listener might fit in. And Doug, you and I, when we sit down with clients who come in here in the office for the first time and want to go over finances and get a second opinion or get their first retirement plan put together, that can kind of be a common question for them is after we've collected all the data and we've started analyzing it, they look at us and they want to say, how do I stack? They don't know quite how to say it, but they say, how do I stack up against?
Right. They're curious. They want to know how they are compared to everybody else we meet.
Right. That's a measuring stick.
Yeah. It's, I think, natural. Kind of reminds me of the commercial we used to see years ago. I think it was by Voya. And it would say, what's your number? And it had these people parading around with a number sign.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So this is kind of what this segment's all about.
Yeah.
What is your number?
Where do you stack up? But that's not necessarily the most relevant question to ask.
It is not.
All right.
By any stretch.
So talk to us about that. What should be a more relevant question to ask?
Well, the first thing is, what's your budget?
Yes.
We had this conversation this week with one of our clients. He is considering an earlier retirement than we had planned for. And he came in this week and we sat down and we did his plan every which way from Sunday.
And he was spending a lot more than he thought.
He was, but it still worked out for him.
Yeah, that was amazing.
His number's okay. But yeah, some of these numbers here that Fidelity came up with are pretty interesting numbers. And they go by generation. And the first one is Generation Z.
That's the youngest generation out there now, I guess.
And Brice, what was that age group?
That is 96 on up, though I think maybe it has just stopped because I've heard something about Generation Alpha now. So I think it's 96 up until pretty recent.
And obviously this group is really just getting their careers underway and started to save. And Fidelity's got their average savings as $5,400, which I can believe that.
Absolutely, yeah. That's my daughter, and she's still in college. So it wouldn't make sense for them to have a lot more than that on average. Absolutely.
And then there's that most talked about generation, the millennials.
The millennials, and that's 1980 to 1996 by most of your standards.
And from what you hear about millennials, this number here actually surprises me to the good.
Yeah. Maybe there's hope for the future.
Yeah. On average, millennials have about $175,000 set aside for retirement.
Now, this is, just to be clear, this is according to Fidelity with those who do have retirement accounts already set up.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they can't do there's a lot of them out there who have zero balances as well.
Now, the baby boomers, which is my generation, and they surprisingly didn't have your generation in here.
Generation X is not represented in this, and maybe that's perfectly fitting.
I don't know. I mean, did they have any Generation Xers account holders? Got to, right?
They have to. Yeah. I mean, I would think that'd be them and the baby boomers would be the two biggest ones that they've got.
You would think. Anyway, baby boomers have on average about $358,000. So for you folks who are baby boomers out there, and we see a lot of you, that would be your yardstick.
And, I would say that might be pretty much right on spot with what we see come in here, Doug.
I absolutely agree with you. Sometimes a little higher, sometimes a little lower, but that's just about right on average. But
let's go back to what you said before we started going over those numbers, that it's not so much about what you saved, it's about your budget. And that is, we have seen people come through here who have made an average throughout their life of maybe $40,000 a year as a couple. And they can't find a way to spend less than $40,000 a year. If you ask them to trim down their budget, they can't do it. Yet we've seen people come in here who have made, on average, $140,000 a year as a couple, and they couldn't find a way to spend more than $2,500 a month in their budget. Say, you can afford to spend a little bit more, and they can't do it. So you're exactly right that it comes down to your budget. It just has to be a budget that fits within your means. And if you don't have as much savings, obviously your budget needs to be a little bit on the slimmer side. If you have done a great job of savings and you've got some good Social Security and pension numbers going to be coming into you, then you can afford to increase that spending a little bit. But it's not so much about what you've saved as it is what kind of income you can produce off of that and what your budget needs are in retirement.
Yeah, it's everybody's different. And, it's our favorite answer to every question is it depends, right?
It depends. It really does. So those are some interesting numbers for those various groups. I don't think there's anything real surprising there. Maybe the Generation Z having 5,400 might be a little surprising to me. But what, Doug, should somebody do if they're listening out there and they find themselves a little bit behind those numbers? What would be their next step of action to start correcting that?
Well, the first thing they need to do is actually do a budget. I mean, that's critical. Figure out exactly what you're spending. Most people have no concept of it. From there, then you need to really figure out where you can cut so that you can save.
Okay.
And cut out the largesse and try to save it. Try to get out of debt. Pay off the cars, pay off the mortgage. I'm sounding like Dave Ramsey,
there you go,
but I believe in it.
It's sensible. It's sensible. Yeah, get out, particularly the high interest loans. Get rid of those first. And then I would say also we want to talk to a professional. We want to have you come in because there's a lot of moving puzzle pieces when we put a whole plan together. A lot of them are things that people just wouldn't ordinarily think of that are going to factor heavily into this.
Absolutely. Now, folks, it should be pretty clear if you listen to our show on a regular basis that we truly understand what you're going through as you prepare for retirement. You worked 40 plus years to build your lifestyle, and you don't want to risk it now.
No, exactly. We get that. We see it time and time again. And really, you deserve that peace of mind that a customized written retirement income plan that is going to provide for you. And we've been doing exactly that for hundreds of families in the Triad. For Doug, your firm here has been here for more than 20 years. I think they're going on 22 years now. And helping our clients protect their income, optimize their Social Security, maximize tax efficiency, and achieving their retirement goals is what gets us out of bed in the morning. We truly do care, and our process reflects that. It actually involves financial planning, listening carefully to you, the things you say, even the things you don't say, believe it or not, researching your situation thoroughly, and building a long-lasting relationship with you. And we want you to be a client not just for a short time period. We want you to be a client for life.
Yeah, so, if you want to talk to us about what it looks like to put together that kind of financial plan, here's how the process works. First, you'll call us right now or go online to let us know you'd like to visit. And we'll touch base to set up that time, and then we'll meet for an initial review. And if we each determine we're a good fit for one another, then we put together your custom financial plan.
And
it's that easy.
And there's no cost or obligation to that either. So get in touch while it's on your mind right now. And remember, again, no cost, no obligation for this financial review. So it's just your time that you're dedicating to this. And our phone number is 336-391-3409. I'll give it to you again, 336-391-3409. You can get a second opinion as well, review online at thewealthguardians.com. You just got to click the blue button. And Doug, I'll remind everybody out there again, like we did in the first segment, that if you are holed up at home for whatever reason and you can't get out or you don't want to get out, we can do this virtually online too. If you've got internet access and you've got a computer, we can do this whole meeting process online. You don't have to step out of your comfort zone in these strange times that we're living in as well. So folks, don't let that be an excuse for you. Now, this is also a good example of how this isn't the retirement picture, what we've been talking about as far as how much you have saved. This is just a snapshot of one portion of someone's efforts to plan for retirement. But there's a lot of additional things to consider. Doug, what would be some of the other things to consider besides just how much you have saved? I know we talked about budget. What else should we be considering?
What do you want to do in retirement? What are your plans? What are your goals? Are you going to work part-time? Do you want to travel a lot? Do you want to be charitably inclined? Do you want to
what kind of legacy do you want to leave?
Legacy, yeah. All kinds of things go into this plan. And I'll tell you, Brice, for the life of me, I don't understand why everybody doesn't take us up on our offer, because that second opinion review we give people, we put a ton of work in it. They get a ton of data.
And this is something that a lot of other advisors will charge an enormous amount of money for that we do for you at no cost, no obligation.
None.
So, folks, we'll leave you with that thought there for the rest of the weekend. We do appreciate you hanging in there with us throughout the both segments. And stay dry, stay safe, and we look forward to catching up with you here again next weekend. Take care, Doug.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Wealth Guardian Show. Remember, if you need any help with crafting your financial and retirement plan, to reach out to the great team at Wealth Guardians by calling 336-391-3409. That's 336-391-3409. Or go online to thewealthguardians.com.